Good morning, Redwall Survivor. Foxpen here, checking in for the final chapter from Top 30 Character Application Reading and Review for Mossflower Odyssey 4, The Beast in the Crater. So today we're going to be looking at The Beast with a Secret, and we have 3 applications here. We have 2 rats and a beech marten. And it's quite the age spread too. We have a 15-year-old, a 35-year-old, and a 40-year-old. And they're from all walks of life. So it's going to be a really interesting category. There's a lot of talk on this, about this category on the forums. Everyone has their own opinion on who they like, why. It seems a lot of people were expecting different things from this category because really it could be as vague as you wanted, it could be as detailed as you wanted. Some characters went and spilled the secret right out of the gate, others kept it a little closer to the heart. So it's been really fun and interesting to read and see all the different writing styles and all the different characters that came out of this, as well as all the different reviews and all the feelings that us humble reviewers and readers are having. So I'm going to get started now. We're going to start with Black Jasmine, and she's a 15-year-old lady rat. I remember when the names for the first couple of applications were released, Black Jasmine was already causing a bit of a conversation in the forum, so I was looking forward to seeing this character when I realized that her name was in the top 30. Okay, so here we go. "This won't do," said Jasmine. "Rope is yucky." All 3 stoats turned on their giant black rat hostage with muzzles agape. Shreds of Jasmine's rope gags sprinkled along her face, and she smiled a sharp, crooked smile. The thieves found a cabbage in the candlelit storeroom, but she cleaved the vegetable with one bite. "Only fancy foxes eat cabbage," said Jasmine. "Let me out, and I'll make a couple of little pillow puffs. Chef Chuffy taught me for when I got hungry." "She'd help, but you shot her. I saw it. You shot her. And Mary Molly, and Fast Flintpaw, and—" "Quiet, monster." "I'm not a monster. Chef Chuffy says I'm a whole lot of love with a little sick. Chef Chuffy says if Beast treated me—" A backhand from the large stoat silenced Jasmine. With great effort, the large stoat dragged the bound rat maid from the storeroom, through a pub's kitchen, and to the front. Barkeeps and patrons alike lie skewed along the common area, crossbow bolts riddling their bodies. Jasmine folded her large ears over her eyes and troubled in time with her chair skittering on the floorboard. Outside the window, town guards erected barricades and directed bystanders away from the standoff. "Pick one." The big stoat threw Jasmine before the front display. "Might be your last if these bell ringers don't pay ransom." Confection stuffed the pub's display case. The aroma broke Jasmine's tremble and set a slather along her muzzle. Her nose pointed from the rhubarb tarts to the mince pheasant sweeties and ended on the sugar cookies. Each cookie took the shape of a savory stoat, or a fruity ferret, or a marshmallow marten. Jasmine licked the crown of a cut-out stoat, but the cookie did not satisfy. "I want—" The tremble returned. "No. Chef Chuffy said only bad rats got hungry." The large stoat shouted at the guards outside, ignoring his captive's mutterings. "Better pay up!" screamed the stoat. "A pouch of rubies or I turn this massive wench into a hedgehog!" The stoat fired, catching a young fox in ill-fitting armor upside the head. The guards pulled back further still, until not a soul stood outside the windows. But these are bad beasts." As the stoat chuckled, he didn't hear the gnash of teeth, the snap of rope, or the drip of saliva onto the floorboards. Darkness fell by more than the setting sun outside. Back in the storeroom, the remaining stoat duo stuck pry bars into every angle of the pub's strongbox. Neither mustered the strength for freeing the coin within. The youngest, missing most of his fur, broke away to find their largest. He found his brother in front of the oven. Not all of him, but the dregs of 2 shorn limbs, still twitching as the meat settled on the matted floor. Droplets from above speckled the stoat's shoulder. The young thief would not look up. Darkness fell by more than the tide of time. Screams filled the pub. Back in the storeroom, the last stoat, a spindle female, pried open the door for a peek. She did not see the youngest behind the kitchen preparation table, but the slams and gurgle of split tendons told her all she needed. The last leaf shut and barred the storeroom door. She clutched the candle close as the wood and metal entry buckled from the outside. She screamed as the door burst open and the candle extinguished. The darkness, the slather, then nothing. By dawn, the guards outside stormed the pub's commons. Not thieves, but the stench of iron, rot, and crisping pastry filled the besieged establishment. All ran quiet until the clatter of metal on stone rang from the kitchen. They drew their weapons, formed up, and kicked open the kitchen door. Oh, just in time! A ferret guard at the front vomited. A few others ran. Many only stared. A cake of viscera lined the kitchen's lanes, sinew and hide streaking from corner to corner until all ran red. Black Jasmine, smiling at the storm center, pulled a tray of pillow puffs from the oven. Medics with the guard stormed past, searching source of the gore. When they found none, they inspected Jasmine for wounds, but the giant rat pushed them aside like a dibbon scattering leaves. Patience, patience! There's enough for every beast. Jasmine bit a puff in half, the meat gnashing along her blood-stained fangs. You can have mine. I'm full. Okay, so there we go. Black Jasmine. I am so glad to have finally gotten to read this application out loud. I've been looking forward to this category for so long. And one of the reasons is Black Jasmine. So first I'm gonna comment on something that really struck me while I was reading this application. There's some awkward sentences, and there's a few that have missing words that really, really jarred the flow of when I was reading. One of these, I think the first time it happens is when the Stoat gang is trying to pry open the pub strongbox with pry bars. There's a missing word in that sentence. But this happens a few times throughout the application. There's some context errors, and I think there was even a sentence or two that was the wrong tense. So, Black Jasmine, you definitely got to take your time and make sure to get a handle on any spag issues before you submit chapters to the contest. If you get into the contest and you're making these kind of errors, it's going to kill you, and it's such a silly thing to get knocked out over. I'm not going to point out every little error in the application, but just make sure you proofread. When I see this many errors in a top 30 application, it kind of makes me a little nervous. I can't even give you the benefit of the doubt that this was a rushed application because Black Jasmine was one of the names that popped up on June 10th when Zevka posted the first round of received applications. So now this makes me think a little bit about this many errors. Was no effort put into this application, or maybe the writer's technical skills just aren't up to snuff, so definitely spag your work. It could have just been an off day. It could have just been, Lord knows what happens to me. There are days where I can't do anything right, so just, if you get in, don't be afraid to ask for help, if you're having trouble writing, and definitely don't be afraid to, post a few drafts so that your fellow contestants can help you if there's, errors in your writing. Like I said, it's a silly thing to get knocked out over, but I do have to bring it up in this application because there were so many errors that I actually noticed, and usually when I'm reading things, I'm able to work my way through the errors. I had to do a few takes for this application because there were so many things that threw me off. Anyway, I'm going to move on though, because like I said, it could have just been an off day, spag can be easily fixed in the competition. It's really not something to worry about. It is just something to be aware of, that's all. Anyway, we're sorry. This application, man, it has a lot of gore, and I don't care. Honestly, gore doesn't bother me. I love the horror genre. And to be honest, I don't think the gore in this application is really all that gory. I think it's where it needs to be in order to make the impact that this application wanted to make. Certainly the gore at the very end of the application, when the coppers come in and the ferret vomits at what he sees, and some literally flee the scene because they just can't handle the carnage. And at the center of the storm, there's Black Jasmine making these delicious pillow puffs. And it's such a great juxtaposition because it really just shows you the two sides that make up the character, the black and the Jasmine in Black Jasmine. And I thought it was a very well maneuvered scene. So well played. If you don't like horror, then obviously this application isn't for you. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, though. There's something I really wanted to see. Oh yeah, I wanted to say this because there's blood, so what? But I don't think that the gore is dumped on us all at once. I think there's the appropriate build-up. And we also get a chance to see the Stoke gang, and we get to know them just enough to know that they get what they deserve. And I think that because of that, it lessens the blow when they get, murdered. To know that, this Black Jasmine, she's evil, but you know what? They are bad beasts. And maybe just this once, she's right to murder everybody in the room. But, with great power, great responsibility, there is great responsibility, her. So, this character, when you see her in the room at the very end, this whole application, it's a horror story through and through. And it heavily infers that this character can become the monster she protests that she's labeled as. So, like I was saying, the responsibility of her choosing a side, whether she wants to be good or wants to be bad, becomes very important and kind of urgent. The moment you throw her in the crater with no authority figure to hinder her hunger, with a crowd that wants to encourage carnage and violence, and her need to survive, which she does. She is a survivor. She survived this robbery gone wrong. She killed all these murderous stoats themselves that aren't no meek sheep. Maybe the hunger takes Jasmine off to the dark side and pits her as a major villain character. So there's potential for her to be a villain, but she could also be a strong hero for that matter. So if you look past the gore and to the character, you actually, and the whole symbolism that's going on here, you start to see more than just the red filter. There is a lot of blood and guts to squelch through if you don't like horror. But, Jasmine doesn't have to keep writing horror right now. Like, the application's had its impact. You're going to remember this character. This Jasmine will... What do I want to say here? She'll have to work on not niching herself to a specific genre in the contest. And for that matter, character relationships are going to be very important for this character to make. And she's going to have to let herself get influenced by other characters in order to grow. But, if you can move on past the horror, this character can be pretty epic, I think. Cannibalism's a tricky scenario to deal with because the circumstances of her cannibalism are unknown too. I also want to talk about how hunger is capitalized in the application. This infers that the capitalization infers that hunger is the main focus, and it's the dark side to Jasmine. But it's also fun to think with this character. There's we don't know why she's a cannibal. We don't know what's wrong with her, really. I do keep saying cannibal, but it's never actually explicitly says she, eats the stoat she kills. It's strongly inferred, so, if I've misread this entirely, sorry. It's fun to think with this character, there's so many details that are dropped about her. She's enormous, she's got this black fur, so much so that, she's compared to, darkness descending. There's two really nicely worded sentences that are quite pretty. Darkness fell by more than the tide of time. Darkness fell by more than the setting sun outside. She is the darkness. She's Batman. Oh my god, Black Jasmine is Batman. Yeah, she's possessed by this hunger. And I know she's 15, but to me her dialogue seems to be a little stunted for her age. I don't know, maybe I'm just interpreting it wrong. So I'm thinking maybe it could even be maybe her cannibalistic tendencies aren't even her secret. Ooh, what did you think of that? Yeah, okay, conspiracy time. Her caregiver, Chef Chuffy, and honest to God, every time that name came up, I kept wanting to say Chef Chuffy. Damn, that was hard. Okay, her caregiver, so Chuffy, didn't really, seem to think it was alarming, her cannibalistic condition, so long as it was under control. She taught her how to make these puff pastries to help her deal with the hunger. And, she's a good little girl. Jasmine's a good girl. She doesn't want to get hungry and kill everybody. But then, but they're really bad beasts. So, maybe just this one time. And I wonder because of Chuffy, I wonder that maybe these dead beasts who Jasmine was close to, Mary Molly and Fast Paws, whatever, I wonder if they were on the secret. Maybe this rat's history is more the intrigue than her actual cannibalism. Maybe she was kidnapped as a kid to be brainwashed or something, or maybe the people that rescued her, Chuffy and Mary Molly and all them, maybe they were kidnapped by some cannibal clan of rats that took baby and when they escaped, they took baby Jasmine with them to save this innocent baby from being a horrible evil hillbilly cannibal, whatever. Zany Adventure brought this about. So maybe Jasmine's now growing up, and she has a special place in her life. She's fighting her natural urges to eat people, and maybe her history is more the secret, and why she's a cannibal than her being a cannibal itself is the secret. Does that make sense? I don't know. I just kind of thought of that on the spot and thought, this I really like this character. I see there's so much for her to do in the competition. Yeah. She's a really interesting character, and it's a brave application. I'll give her that. Once again, though, Jasmine, please work on your spag. Please. I don't normally harp on people for this, but your application was, it had some errors in it that I noticed. Okay, so yes, that was Black Jasmine. Oh my gosh, loving it. If this is the first application, in the category, we're just going up from here, that's gonna be great, I'm so psyched. Okay, so next up we have Thrayjen. He's a rat, he's 35, and that's all I got.
The two hedgehog babes clutched each other in horror, their bedsheets pulled tight to their chins. Orange light danced across the rat's pointed features, accentuating his scarred and sneering face. He approached them, claws reaching out as he growled menacingly. "I smell hedgehog blood," the rat began to chant. "I smell hedgehog blood." He began to crawl on all fours, snuffling about the floor and grunting as he went. He came to the foot of the hedgehog's bed and, just as he was hidden by the footboard, paused. But then, suddenly, the rat sprang up, brandishing a fire poker like a rapier and dancing from foot to foot. "Captain Goldie-Hard!" the babes cried out happily, shrieking and giggling as the rat frolicked about the room in full mock combat. "Yes!" the rat cried. "Captain Goldenheart appeared with the Long Patrol!" the babes squealed. "Yes! And they clobbered the dread pirate Black Whiskers, freed the slaves." The rat collapsed onto the end of the bed, his weight sending the laughing babes sprawling. "And they lived happily ever after," he finished. "Okay, Thrayjen." One of the two hedgehogs, a wee maid, crawled forward. "Why is pirates always stealing slaves?" "Cheap labor," Thrayjen answered quietly, before he got up and began to tuck the babes back into their blankets. "Pirates are bad, that's why. Bad beasts don't value the life of another. They use beasts like you or I use a spoon." The young hedgehog scrunched her face up, clearly not understanding. Thrayjen sighed and rubbed his nose. "I'll tell you when you're older." "I uses a spoon to eat oatmealies." the small boy said through a yawn. "Perhaps we'll have some for breakfast. Now you've had your story, so close your eyes and dream up a tale of your own." The rat made sure the window was locked and quietly began to turn away. "Good night," the babes loudly proclaimed in unison. "Good night," Thrayjen murmured. Low light illuminated the cozy room. Thrayjen tiptoed towards the hearth on the other side of the shack that made up his home. Already there, an old hedgehog crone used a towel to pull a black kettle off the dying coals. "How's the soup, Nan?" Thrayjen asked as he settled himself by the hearth. "You naughty rascal!" The grey hedgehog chuckled as she shakily poured a cup of tea. "It's blackberry tonight, nice and sweet like you." "You don't know that," Thrayjen replied. He blew away the steam rising from his cup. "Nonsense!" Nan scolded him by pinching his cheek. She ignored his indignant mewl of protest and arranged a knitted blanket over her shoulders. With an enormous sigh, Nan settled into a thick rocking chair. "When you first showed up on my door, half drowned in the rain and skinny as a quill, I hadn't any idea what to do. I'd just been saddled with the wee pests." Unsubtle giggles arose from the hedgehog babes as they pretended to sleep. "And now I had a great big dirty whiskered rat on my doorstep. My, oh my!" "Thank you," Thrayjen quietly said around a sip of tea, "for helping me." "Oh, enough. We've been through this before. It's nothing to be kind. You've been a blessing." Thrayjen set his cup down upon the stack of old books that acted as their end table. "You didn't have to help me. Could have taken one look at me and turned away a vermin." Nan clucked her tongue chidingly, staring into the embers. "You've never done anything to prove such old-minded thinking. Not to us, at least. That's good enough for me." "Still, I'm glad I found your kindness," Thrayjen cordially said. Quietly, he added, "I don't deserve any of it." "Whatever you buried that night, I hope it stays buried. You don't deserve any more punishment." Nan's paw reached out to gently pat the same scarred cheek that she had squeezed earlier. "What?" Surprised that the palsied old hog knew anything, Thrayjen's eyes widened for but a moment before narrowing. "Behind the old stone fence? The night you arrived, I saw you bury something. It was small, no bigger than a broom handle. I never asked. Didn't feel right prying." "Feels right to ask now, does it?" Thrayjen asked with a teasing tone, but he was sure Nan saw him force his smile. "Naughty rascal," Nan mumbled. Hypnotized by the glowing of the coals, she dozed off, her tea left unfinished. Thrayjen double-checked the windows and door were locked tight before he himself went to bed. So there we go, that's Thrayjen. I like Thrayjen, I do. This is a technically sound application. It's well constructed and it's well paced. I'm gonna take a few minutes. I've already spent like 15 minutes on Black Jasmine, but this category is so strong that it's like these characters deserve some more time. So there's a lot of description in a very small space. You only have 750 words to do this. But as I'm reading through Thrayjen's application, it never once feels squished or forced. So I get a very clear picture of what the shack looks like and what's going on in the house without having to expend a lot of energy in thinking of the stuff. You know, there's books used as end tables, there's a stone hearth, the babes share a bed, Nan sleeps in a chair she's got like a shawl. It's a cramped shack, you know, so even though there's not a lot of room in there, it still seems homely though with these details too. So you can picture it very easily, and like I said, it's homely, it's sweet, it's just like Thrayjen. You know, he's this mild-mannered, patient, I presume helpful rat. I say helpful because Nan says he's been a blessing and he's like tucking the kids in. So like he probably like pulls water and stuff for her. She's got a palsy, so I imagine he has to be helpful if he's living under her roof. You know, as well as, you know, he probably has to be helpful to get that kind of a compliment from a hedgehog. He calls himself a vermin, but he's never proved vermin stereotypes true to this family, so that leads me to think that he's a genuinely good guy. You know, I bet he's handy too, right? You know, he probably fixes all the cartwheels in town or something. Now, I did say he was living under Nan's roof, but at one point in the app he actually says that this is his home. It's specified that the shack makes up his home, so he lives there. You know, we don't know the circumstances why he's there. It's inferred later on. And okay, and on that note, wonderful description in Aplow. I like Thrayjen because we don't know much really about him. We don't know his secret. There's not only description in the application, but in this description there's information. Unlike Black Jasmine, whose secret is she, eats naughty beasts that murder her friends and she struggles to control herself, Thrayjen seems as though he's consciously engineered specifically to not look like much at first glance. But, if you pay attention to these details, these things, these hints that are hidden in the application, it's actually what's not said that tells a completely different story. It's inference, like what Jasmine did, but without the gore. And to me, it's just, Thrayjen's writing doesn't rely on shock value. There's the same amount of exposition coming out of the same cracks, but you're not grossing anyone out. Things are still subtle, but they're just as effective without being dramatic. And to me, it's more impactful. I guess it shows a little more grace with the wordcraft. But like I said, also, gore doesn't bother me, Jasmine. Please don't think gore bothers me. Okay, so this information that I keep talking about, these hints are delivered. The way they're delivered, it's done in a believable, rather normal, how do I explain this? It doesn't feel forced. Yeah, the hints that Thrayjen drops they're just kind of sprinkled in his everyday tasks. It's just how he is. So him doing these things and giving us inadvertently giving us this information, he's really well suited to the category. Some characters have been written explicitly for the purpose, okay, they're just a person existing in a category, but I really feel that this category is almost created for Thrayjen. The secret is kind of it doesn't consume him, but at the same time, when you're reading this application, you're like, what the heck is the secret, man? It's consuming me. I think it's a really well-crafted application, and I like the mystique. So, okay, the bedtime story he tells, it's just a story, or is it? Which leads to his explanation of slavery, which infers his attitude towards certain things. But it can also be read as his own assumed history. Was he a pirate or was he a slave? It's set up to let you speculate. He jokes that Nan doesn't know if he's really sweet or not, and you don't really know if he's joking or not, because Nan seems to think he take him seriously. It's speculated, once again, he might be more than he seems. He accentuates how grateful he is that Nan took a chance on him instead of branding him a vermin. And he says he doesn't deserve kindness, so you don't know if he did anything. Or maybe he's just self-hating because he's a rat, Maybe he really was a pirate. Or maybe it's just, he's self-hating because he's a rat and she's a hedgehog and he didn't think she'd, take pity on a rat. It's all up for speculation. So I like how everything is set up to look like something benign, but ultimately it could be something else. Every detail seems to be there for a reason, and that's to tease the audience, and I think the writing here does a good job of that. Anyway, even though Thrayjen, he seems like he might be a bit of a slow burn at first, the application actually doesn't really excite the first time you read it. It's more, the more you look at it, the more you really end up seeing. And because his secret, his shtick, really, it isn't truly betrayed in the application. This also allows for flexibility in the competition, so this character could adapt and even, drive things by merit of not being committed to anything specific, like Jasmine would be with her cannibalism, or, one of the beasts who are on a quest for revenge. It's just Thrayjen's a really well done, clever application that really suits the mystery of the category. And out of all three beasts, I think he suits the category the best. This is going to be such a hard category for me to vote on. I don't know what I'm going to do, guys. Oh, God. Yeah. So I'm just going to comment really quickly on what he buried. That's Thrayjen buries something in his app, and that too can be inferred as that's the main part of the secret. I feel like I almost forgot to talk about this part of the application. It's actually a pretty big deal. He buries something there, and it's
once again, it can be construed of two different things. It's the literal, he buried something, but it's also the metaphorical, he buried something. And it can be inferred from everything else in the app that, he buried his past, something to do with his past, something that he doesn't want to come back. Maybe that's why he checks the doors, And the fact that Nan acknowledges that he's buried something and that, he doesn't deserve more punishment. She knows something's up, but she still trusts him. So, she herself, it's kind of like, does she know something's up, or is she just some crazy old palsied hedgehog crone? Anyways, I'll probably get more into this battle between Black Jasmine and Thrayjen later on. We're gonna switch over now to Nokki Avaartin, and Nokki Avaartin is a beech marten, 40 years old, and he too is in the beast with a secret category. I had to actually look up what a beech marten was. I had no idea what the difference between a beech marten and a pine marten would be. Turns out it's just, their habitat's a little more varied, and I think their size is a little different. They might be a little smaller. But yeah, anyway, so a beech marten, it's totally realistic within the realm of Redwall. They're a European creature. They can also be found in North America, but they're found in Europe. So let's get going with Nokki Avaartin. And Nokki, once again, like I've said to many people before, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your character's name.
No one turned their heads when the white-breasted beech marten with a bald patch on his back leg entered the tavern. No one gasped, and no one stared. No one whispered rumors in the corner about anything a friend had told a friend that morning. No one stopped drinking, hollering, gambling, or fighting. It was as though he wasn't there at all. He awkwardly took a seat at the table as the barmaid, casually and without blinking, took his drink order, like old times. He sighed. The creaky wooden stool shook underneath him as his knees bounced. He stared intently at the flame of the small candle on the table, to avoid any risk that someone would make eye contact with him. He noticed a small chip on the middle claw of his left paw, and quickly hid the paw under his cloak. Then, realizing it might attract attention if he continued wearing his cloak indoors, he slowly took off the cloak, and quietly laid it on the seat next to him while sneaking his left paw between his stomach and the table. His head immediately felt exposed without the hood of the cloak, so he held his forehead in his right paw and ran it through the fur on his head as though it needed brushed. He shifted his legs and tried to think about the ale in front of him. He didn't notice Ragschild the weasel walking up behind him, carrying a large mace. "Nokki, mate, you made it back!" Startled, Nokki spilled the ale all over himself. He grabbed his cloak to try to soak it up, though he already had felt it soak into his underclothes. "How you been? How's the old lady?" Nokki couldn't speak. His jaw was clenched. He could only breathe rapidly, trying to hold eye contact without blinking, all the while still dabbing up the ale with his right paw. He winced as the weasel patted him on the back. Ragschild laughed. "Good as always then, old friend. So good to see ya." He smiled and took the seat previously occupied by the cloak. "So, you need to know something about Drenthon." Nokki didn't care, but he raised his eyebrows anyway. "While you were off having a good time," Ragschild winked, "old Drenthon turned traitor on us. Sold us out. Handed over the hostages without so much as a sliver of copper for us." Nokki tried to listen to the saga of treachery and injustice. He couldn't understand the words, but listening to the music of each syllable helped relax him. Ragschild interrupted himself at last. "But it's good to have you back, really, mate. Hey, what shall I make an announcement?" "No, please, no." Ragschild leaped on the table and shouted to the room, narrowly avoiding spilling the ale a second time. "Oi, guess who's back, everybody? Master Avaartin!" Nokki cowered over his plate of mashed fish livers and gravy. Mercifully, everyone acted as though they were not at all interested, or hadn't even heard his name before. Ragschild shouted louder. "Oh, come on, mates! It's the Neckbreaker, the Shrew Slayer, the Sultan of Skull Smashing, back from a bit of a hiatus, and celebrating his 10-year wedding anniversary. Let's give him a hand!" There were a few scattered claps from a young tavern rat he had never met, and from a couple of the older martens who always sat in the loft over the bar, whose memories went back more than a decade. Everyone quickly returned to drinking and eating, and occasionally fighting. Nokki cleared his throat. "Ragschild, can I ask you a favour?" "Can you? Why, I owe you my life, boss, of course." "Do you know where I can find some work?" The weasel raised his eyebrows. "Honest work? 'Cause you're asking the wrong No, paying work. Any leads?" You sure you want to go back to that, Master Nokki? It's fine for a bloke like me, but you got a pair of dibbins now and some respectability, mate. Yes, exactly. Several hours later, Nokki left the tavern. His gait was now confident and steady. His knees were solid, his gaze uplifted. His bare head was exposed to the cool sea breeze, and his left paw was clasped firmly around a dagger. He wouldn't be home tonight, but he wouldn't be lost. Alright, so that was Nokki Avaartin. Solid app. There's a few spag errors here and there that kind of interrupted the flow. Just some awkwardly worded sentences, more so than anything. But really, it's nothing. It's not worth mentioning. So, Nokki, our beech marten, is all about the mystery. Literally and figuratively. He doesn't want to be known. He doesn't want to be seen. But while I'm reading, I couldn't help but get the sense that, yeah, maybe he kind of did, actually. He did want to be seen and noticed. He's got this family, this wife and Dibbins, his old life of crime or horde beasting or whatever, it's over. But he doesn't seem to be enjoying married life as much as his companion, Rag's child, assumes he is. Nokki seems to almost be going through, withdrawal once he steps into the tavern. He's suffering from paranoia, he's got the shakes, he's fidgeting and fretting over every little thing, whether something as simple as whether or not he should be wearing his cloak or not. He's very concerned about silly things that a regular beast wouldn't think about. Once he leaves the tavern, though, presumably with some paying work versus honest work, he has his confidence back. He doesn't care that he's not wearing his cloak or the chipped claw can be seen. He's got his mojo back and he's confident enough to get things done. So the withdrawal kind of, it's there. Kind of it makes me wonder, okay, why is he so anxious to not be recognized when, to me, it seems like he does want to be recognized. So, I don't know. Maybe that's for the mystery of the application, but, as for the secret of the application, I'm not sure there really is any. We know he's married. We can reasonably assume he wants a bit more excitement in his life. Maybe one last score just to help him settle. Maybe he's even addicted to it. But really, the only thing that infers there's a secret in his life is this chipped claw that comes up twice and takes up a bit of time. So, because of this, I'm going to propose a theory. This whole, he's miserable at home, and he seems to, the life is being sucked out of him until he gets this seedy job. I am thinking something along the lines of, I don't know, domestic abuse, maybe? Hear me out. Perhaps married life is just going so bad for him, he's taken to abusing his family, and he needs to get this paying, seedy work. That's his solution. He stays away from his family so they're safe, he gets money so everyone's taken care of, and he can start fresh or rather, he can start fresh and just abandon everyone and start again somewhere. Maybe he really, really hated his family, and that's the secret. He's left them. He's not after one last score, but rather he just wants to move to a town where there's no nagging marten wives nattering his ears off or something like that. And the whole thing is he's nervous that someone's going to see him or hear his plans to abandon his family. I don't know, but, if the chipped claw, I think it's on his left paw, pertains to his secret, it's so downplayed to the point where it's forgettable until it's just suddenly brought up in the last sentence where we see he's got his act together and he's got his confidence back. His hood's off and the cold breeze is ruffling through his majestic locks, but he don't care, things are finally looking up for him. So the character, he is mysterious, but I'm not sure he's meant to keep us in the dark as much as he does. So Nokki, if you can, definitely feed us some more of your history, and either play up this dark and dirty secret or find another way to make us see what you want to see. But you're going to have to get efficient at that to impress, because this is a very, very competitive category, and you do deserve to be there. But, people are going to expect a lot from you when you get in. So, definitely, figure out a plan, your character, because he's kind of ambiguous. It really gives you an opportunity to go down a whole bunch of different avenues, and that's great. Definitely use that to your advantage. So I'm going to end there. Congratulations, everyone. Black, Jasmine, Thrayjen, Nokki. This is a really great category, my favorite. there's things I love about each application, and then there's things that I can see all these characters doing. There's so many possibilities with them. This is a really hard category. But y'all deserve to be here. Congratulations getting to the top 30. And that actually wraps up the Mossflower Odyssey 4 Beast in the Crater reading and review for me. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Don't forget to vote, of course. Get your votes in by the deadline. That's July 7th. Let's make this, a really great competition. Congratulations to everyone in the top 30. Good luck to everyone who moves into the top 10 in the actual competition. It's been a really great top 30 round. I'm super excited for this. I know a lot of people are super excited for this. Let's make it a great story, folks. All right. Y'all have a great afternoon, and we'll see you around the forums. All right. Foxpen out. Yee yee.